Welcome to Illuminati Silver. We tell the truth about silver. Today is Saturday the 29th of May 2021 and we're covering President Biden's plans, expenditure plans, which could force public spending to exceed GDP at levels last seen during World War II. So let's take a look at what he's proposing. Now, earlier today, we produced our Gold and Silver Weekly Update for the weekend in the 28th of May, where we forecast potentially higher prices next week for both gold and silver, but especially for gold, and we've placed a link to this video in the description box below. Now, having seen an article published by the BBC late yesterday, and considering the consequences of President Joe Biden's spending plans, we can, for almost certainty, envisage a considerable tailwind over the next few months for gold and silver as his plan is debated, and also to some degree potentially for the stock market too, with to's and fro's as and when these plans are either accepted or rejected. So let's take a quick look at what the BBC reported. BBC News article. Headline: Biden budget. President sets out $6 trillion spending plan. US President Joe Biden has released his first annual budget, a $6 trillion spending plan that includes steep tax increases for wealthier Americans. The bumper proposal would include huge new social programs and investment in the fight against climate change. But it needs approval from Congress, where Republican Senator Lindsey Graham condemned it as insanely expensive. Under the plan, debt would reach 117% of GDP by 2031, surpassing levels during World War II. That would be in spite of at least $3 trillion in proposed tax increases on corporations, capital gains, and the top income tax bracket. Former President Donald Trump, a Republican, also ran up the deficit each year he was in office, and his final annual spending proposal had a price tag of $4.8 trillion. The Biden budget includes a $1.5 trillion request for operating expenditures for the Pentagon and other government departments. It also incorporates two plans he has previously publicized: his $2.3 trillion jobs plan and a $1.8 trillion families plan. Mr. Biden, a Democrat, said his budget invests directly in the American people and will strengthen our nation's economy and improve our long-run fiscal health. So what's in the plan? The White House says the proposal will help grow the economy from the bottom up and middle out. The budget promises more than $800 billion for the fight against climate change, including investments in clean energy. $200 billion to provide free preschool places for all 3- and 4-year-olds. $109 billion for 2 years of free community college for all Americans. $225 billion for a national paid family and medical leave program, bringing the US in line with comparable wealthy nations. $115 billion for roads and bridges, and $160 billion for public transit and railways, and $100 billion to improve access to broadband internet for every American household. The budget also has a noticeable absence: the Hyde Amendment, a federal provision that says taxpayer money cannot fund abortions in US states except in cases of rape and incest. Mr. Biden is the first president in decades to exclude the abortion coverage ban, a move that has already been applauded by progressives. He supported the amendment for years before changing course during last year's presidential campaign. But the president's plan faces an uphill battle in the Senate, where several centrist members of his own party could side with Republicans in supporting the Hyde Amendment. But what about inflation and the deficit? Top White House economic advisor Cecilia Rouse acknowledged the economy was now seeing inflation spikes, but projected it would settle down to an annual rate of around 2% over time. Some economists, including Larry Summers, who advised Presidents Barack Obama and Bill Clinton, have warned such massive government spending could drive up inflation, forcing the Federal Reserve to raise interest rates, which would in turn raise the risk of a recession. The Biden budget projects an additional $4.5 trillion would be added to US debt over the next decade. But the White House estimates the plan would be completely paid for within 15 years as tax increases eat away at the deficit. Critics, however, are sceptical about projected happy endings long after Mr. Biden leaves office. Republicans have expressed alarm at the record spending. Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell on Friday called the plan a socialist daydream. Senator Jerry Moran of Kansas said it would saddle future generations with burdensome levels of debt. End of article. Okay, we all know that US presidents rarely get what they're hoping for where economic policy and plans are concerned. However, the psychology behind his proposals, that's Biden's proposals, are without any question in our mind a move towards MMT, modern monetary theory, where at its most simple, you basically print and spend your way out of a crisis, almost regardless of the amount of debt incurred, as the theory suggests that the economic growth, which emanates from that expenditure, eventually erodes the debt incurred via higher tax receipts and a growth in national wealth. Now, this video would be too long to debate this matter today, but the consequence is what is important to us in the precious metals field. We're confident, or as confident as we can be, that should these proposals come anywhere near the light of day, the effect on inflation would be such that the Fed could very well be placed in the impossible position of having to raise interest rates at a time it can least afford to do so, and government would only be able to pay the interest on its national debt by borrowing and printing even more money, thereby exacerbating the situation. Now, however that all pans out in the fullness of time, because it's not going to happen tomorrow, it will almost certainly debase the currency, and commodities like gold and silver will undoubtedly rise in value. Having spent much of the past few weeks following the crypto market as well, we can also see that market benefiting. And certainly equities too may indeed rise short term, at least on the announcement of such public spending plans. But this will simply propel it faster and harder to the looming stock market crash that has long been forecast. If there has ever been a precedent good for gold and silver prices, the one currently sitting in the Oval Office may very well be that president. By accident, as opposed to by intent. What do you think? Do share your thoughts. Do you think Biden's plan will see the light of day? Will Congress as a whole, or the Senate in particular, actually vote down such proposals? Do share your thoughts. And what impact do you think these will have? Not just on gold and silver, but the crypto market, which is taking a plunge even today. We've noticed Bitcoin has fallen a fair whack, but also some of the minor cryptocurrencies also have taken quite a hit. And also the equity market too. Do you see that rising short term, at least on the back of this news, before such proposals are introduced? Of course, as the back and forth between the Oval Office and Congress takes place, with some days being positive and other days being negative, we can see a sort of whipsawing of expectation. Let us know. Thank you so much for listening. If you haven't already done so, please subscribe to the channel, not forgetting to press the bell sign. so that you're notified of our videos as and when they're published. And a final reminder that earlier today we produced our Gold and Silver Weekly Update, and we've placed a link to that in the description box and in the question box or question and answer box below the video. Thank you so much for listening. Disclaimer. Illuminati silver owners come from a background of banking, international wealth management and economics. Having now retired from these worlds, we are not qualified to give investment advice. Therefore, this and other productions must not be deemed to be giving such advice and merely represent the personal views of its owners.